The night was quiet on the human colony's edge. The stars shone above like silver dust across the sky. Soldiers walked their patrol, boots crunching softly on dry ground. Everything seemed normal, calm, and still. But then the silence broke. A loud crash echoed through the valley, shaking the ground like thunder. Lights flashed in the distance, and smoke rose from the forest beyond the colony walls. Alarms rang through the outpost. Red lights flashed, and the soldiers rushed to their stations. Some thought it was another meteor. Others feared it was an enemy ship. The commander shouted orders, his voice sharp and hard, but deep inside, everyone felt the same thing. Fear. A small team was sent to investigate. Their armored vehicles rumbled through the gates, engines loud in the night. Among them was a young soldier named Daniel. He was not the bravest, nor the strongest, but he was steady, careful, and always noticed details others missed. He looked out into the dark forest as they moved, heart beating faster with every step closer to the crash site. When they arrived, the sight froze them all. A broken pod lay half buried in the earth, its metal glowing from heat, smoke rising into the air, strange symbols carved along its sides. It was not human design, it was alien, and that meant danger. The soldiers surrounded the pod, weapons raised, waiting for something to move. The air smelled of burning metal and strange chemicals. Daniel felt his throat dry, his finger close to the trigger. Then, a sound came, faint, weak, like a whisper. The hatch slowly opened, steam hissed, and from the pod, a figure crawled out. It was a girl, or at least she looked like one, her skin pale with a faint silver glow, her hair long and dark, her eyes large and shining like moons. She was small, thin, trembling, chains wrapped around her wrists and ankles, her body bruised and weak. Shh! He collapsed onto the dirt, gasping for air. The soldiers shouted, some aimed their guns closer. Stay back, the commander barked. It could be a trick. But Daniel saw something different. Her hands were not reaching for a weapon. Her voice was not a war cry. It was a plea. She lifted her head, her lips trembling, and whispered words none of them understood, her voice soft like broken glass. Then she looked directly at Daniel, not at anyone else, only him. Her eyes filled with pain and fear, and she spoke again, the words clearer this time. If I bond with you, will you let me in? The soldiers froze. Her words echoed in Daniel's mind. What did she mean, bond? Was it a trap or a warning? She coughed, blood shining on her lips, then collapsed again, her body too weak to move. The commander ordered her restrained, heavy cuffs locked around her, chains rattling as they dragged her back toward the vehicle. Daniel walked beside her, unable to stop staring. She looked so fragile, yet so strange. He had fought enemies before, cruel aliens who wanted humans gone, but she was not like them. She looked lost, broken, almost human in her suffering. Back at the colony, the alien girl was placed inside a reinforced glass chamber. Doctors examined her from behind barriers. Scanners beeped, her vital signs weak. She barely breathed, but she kept moving her lips, repeating the same words over and over, her eyes always searching for Daniel. Other soldiers mocked, calling her dangerous, a monster. Some said she should be destroyed before she caused trouble, but Daniel could not laugh. He remembered her eyes, and the way she said those strange words. They were not the words of a monster, they were the words of someone begging not to be alone. That night, Daniel stood outside the glass chamber, watching her as she slept, her chains heavy, her face pale. He felt something stir inside him, something he did not understand. Why had she spoken to him and no one else? What was the meaning of bond, and why did it sound less like a threat and more like a prayer? Outside, the colony leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to hand her over to Central Command, others wanted her destroyed, but Daniel kept silent. He had no answers yet, only questions that burned deeper with every look into her silver eyes. As the night stretched on, the alien girl stirred, her eyes opening slowly. She saw Daniel through the glass, and with the last of her strength, she whispered again, "If I bond with you, will you let me in?" And this time, Daniel felt a chill, not of fear, but of destiny. He knew his life was about to change forever. The morning came heavy with tension. The alien girl lay inside the glass chamber, her skin pale, her breath shallow. Machines hummed around her, recording every weak beat of her heart. Soldiers stood guard at every corner, their rifles always pointed at her as if she might rise and destroy them at any second. But she did not move. She only whispered the same words again and again. "If I bond with you, will you let me in?" The scientists crowded around their screens, speaking in hurried voices. They tried to translate her strange language, feeding her words into machines, matching her tones with old records from alien dialects. But the words came back unclear, no exact match. Still, one meaning repeated in every test, the word bond. Daniel listened from behind the barrier, his eyes fixed on her. Others ignored her soft voice, treating it like broken noise. But he felt each word dig into his mind. She was not speaking to them, she was speaking to him, always him, and he could not explain why. The commander entered the lab, his steps heavy, his face cold. "She is dangerous," he said. "Do not be fooled by her face. Monsters come in many shapes." He ordered the scientists to prepare a transport. She would be sent to Central Command where interrogators would decide her fate. Some whispered that, Miguel Bam. She closed her eyes, her lips moved slowly. "Your heart. Open." Others closed. Daniel stepped back, shocked. How could she know? She had seen his life for only hours, yet her words cut into him. He had always been different from the other soldiers. He cared too much. He thought too much. He never laughed when others mocked. And now this alien, weak and dying, could see it clearly. She coughed, her body shaking, chains rattling against the floor. The machines beeped loudly. Doctors rushed in, checking her vitals. One shouted, "She will not last long," another added. "If her body keeps failing, she will die within days." The commander ordered stronger restraints and left. But Daniel stayed frozen, his mind spinning. Later, as the lab emptied, the girl whispered again, barely audible, "If I bond with you, I live. If not, I die." Daniel's throat went dry. The weight of her words pressed on him. If he agreed, he could save her. But what would it mean for him? What would it cost? No one understood the risk. No one knew if bonding meant losing control, sharing secrets, or even giving up his own life. Yet her eyes begged him, not as a soldier begging for power, but as a lost soul begging to survive. He stood there for a long time, unable to answer, unable to move, torn between fear and compassion. That night, whispers spread through the colony. Some soldiers joked she was trying to trick Daniel, others warned him to stay away. But deep down, even they felt uneasy. Her words carried a weight none of them could explain. When Daniel finally returned to his quarters, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing her voice again and again. "If I bond with you, will you let me in?" Her words mixed with his memories of battles fought, of comrades lost, of the loneliness he never admitted. The next morning, he stood outside the glass chamber once more, his hand trembling slightly. He knew the choice was coming, and it would change everything. Inside, the alien girl opened her eyes and whispered one more time, her voice weak but steady, "Bond, or I die." And Daniel realized the question was no longer about her alone. It was also about him, about whether he could live without knowing what bond truly meant. The sun rose pale over the colony, its light falling cold across the steel walls. Daniel walked through the corridors with a heavy heart, the whispers of the alien girl still echoing in his mind. "Bond, or I die." No matter how he tried to shake it, the words clung to him like a shadow. The commander stood in the briefing hall, voice sharp as ever. "We cannot allow weakness. This creature is a risk, a tool, or a threat, not a friend," he declared. The soldiers nodded, some laughed. But Daniel stayed silent, his hands clenched, his thoughts far away. He could still see her eyes glowing faintly with fear and hope. Later that day, Daniel slipped into the medical wing. Guards kept their posts, but he knew their patterns now. He timed his steps carefully. When no one watched, he moved close to the glass chamber. The girl stirred weakly, her chains rattling softly, her breath shallow. But when her gaze found him, her lips curved faintly, almost like a smile. Daniel whispered, "Why me? Why not anyone else?" Her voice was faint, broken, but steady. "Because your soul listens, others deaf, others blind. You see?" Daniel felt a tremor in his chest. Her words cut through the walls he had built around himself, all the battles he fought, all the comrades he buried, all the pain he carried alone. Suddenly, it was as if she could see it all without him speaking a word. He asked, his voice tight, "What happens if I say yes? What is bond truly?" The girl closed her eyes, her voice soft. "Bond is share life. I live inside you, you live inside. Me, pain shared, strength shared, no lies, no walls, only truth." Her words trembled, but they carried a strange beauty. Daniel's breath caught, to share life, to open himself fully, to let another being inside his soul. It sounded impossible, it sounded dangerous, yet her eyes begged not for power, but for survival. Behind him, boots echoed. Daniel turned quickly. One of the doctors entered, holding a data pad. "She is failing," the doctor muttered. "Her cells are collapsing. Her body cannot heal without something we do not understand." He glanced at Daniel suspiciously. "She seems to focus on you. Do not let it get into your head," and then walked away. Daniel stood frozen. The choice pressed harder on him now. It was no longer a mystery. It was life or death, for her, and maybe for him too. That night, the colony grew quiet, the sky filled with stars. Daniel sat alone in his quarters, memories flooding back. He thought of the times he had tried to save comrades and failed, of the times he stood in silence as others suffered. He had always carried guilt in his heart, and now here was one more life, fragile and fading depending on him. He whispered into the dark, "If I say no, she dies. If I say yes, I might lose myself." His hands shook, his chest tightened, the decision tore at him like a blade, but his mind returned to her words, "Your soul listens." And he realized something. He had lived all this time with walls around his heart, pushing people away, afraid to share his pain, and now this alien girl was offering him a bond, not of chains, but of truth. When midnight came, Daniel made his choice. He rose, his legs steady despite the storm inside. He walked through the quiet halls, the guards dozed at their posts. He slipped inside the medical wing once again. The girl stirred, her eyes opening slowly. She whispered faintly, "Bond," her voice almost gone. Daniel stepped close, his voice low but firm. "Yes." Her eyes widened, light flickered faintly within them. She lifted her chained hands as if reaching for him, though the glass still stood between. Daniel pressed his hand to the barrier, this time without hesitation. A strange warmth spread through him, not from outside but from deep within. His chest burned, his mind spun. He felt something reach into him, soft yet powerful. Not an attack, but a connection. Memories not his own flooded his thoughts. Flashes of fire, screams, alien cities burning, her people enslaved, her escape in chains, and then her crash to this place. His knees weakened, his breath heavy, but he also felt her feel him. She saw his childhood, his battles, the blood on his hands, the loneliness that ate at his heart. She did not flinch. She did not turn away. She simply held it with him. The bond was not complete, not yet, but it had begun. Daniel stumbled back, gasping. She collapsed too, her body still weak, but her eyes shone brighter now, and she whispered with a new strength, "You said yes." Daniel nodded, his chest still trembling. "I did." Outside, the alarms remained silent, the colony slept. No one knew what had just begun, but Daniel knew, deep in his soul, that his life, and hers, were no longer separate. And though fear pressed against him, stronger still was the feeling that destiny had just been sealed. The next morning came with a strange stillness. Daniel woke in his quarters with sweat on his brow, his chest heavy, his mind filled with images that were not his own. He had dreamed of burning skies, of alien voices crying in fear, of chains wrapping around pale wrists, and yet he had also felt something warm, something alive, something that was not his memory, but hers. He sat on the edge of his bed, breathing hard. He knew the bond had begun, even if only a spark. He could feel her presence faintly, like a shadow in his thoughts, soft and quiet. But there, when Daniel reported to duty, the commander barked orders as usual, but Daniel's ears seemed distant. Every word echoed alongside whispers he could not explain. It was not madness, it was connection. He could almost hear her heart beating inside his mind. Later, Daniel slipped back into the medical wing. The alien girl lay inside the glass chamber, her eyes closed. But when he entered, they opened slowly, silver light reflecting from within. Her lips trembled. "You feel it," she whispered. Daniel nodded, though no one else could hear her words clearly. "Yes, I feel it." She lifted her chained hands weakly, her voice faint. "We share now. I see you. You see me." And then it happened, without touching, without speaking. Daniel felt a rush of images. His childhood, his first day as a soldier, the face of his mother smiling, the laughter of comrades around a fire, all of it opened like a book, and he panicked, pulling back. "Stop," he gasped. But she looked at him gently. "No, stop. Bond grows." For a moment, Daniel's fear turned to anger. The idea of someone inside his heart, seeing everything, knowing his secrets, it felt like losing control. "You cannot just take from me," he whispered sharply. But she shook her head slowly. "Not take. Share. Look." Then Daniel felt her memories again, but this time softer, slower, as if she allowed him to choose. He saw a small alien child running across glowing fields, laughter pure. Then her people kneeling in chains as dark ships filled the sky. The screams, the burning, the pain, the endless silence of being alone. Her voice trembled inside his mind. "I give you my scars, so you do not carry yours alone." Daniel's breath shook, his jeer fading, his chest heavy with something else. Understanding. Hours passed. Doctors and soldiers noticed changes in her body, her breathing steadier, her skin glowing faintly stronger. One doctor muttered, "Her cells are repairing. Impossible." Another whispered, She is recovering without medicine. But no one understood the truth. No one knew that the bond itself was healing her. That night, Daniel stood outside again. She whispered through the glass, "If you die, I die. If I die, you die." Her eyes never leaving his. Daniel's heart pounded. "Then I put my whole people at risk by saying yes," he replied. But she shook her head. "No, you give us both a chance." The following days, the bond grew stronger. Daniel found himself finishing her words before she spoke, hearing her emotions like soft echoes inside him. When she felt fear, he felt a tremor in his chest. When she felt calm, warmth spread through him. One evening, as soldiers mocked her from a distance, calling her names, Daniel felt her pain sharp and deep, but he also felt her swallow it down, trying not to show weakness. His fists clenched. He realized he was feeling her shame as if it were his own. Later that night, he asked her, "Why show me everything? Why not hide?" She looked at him, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Bond has no walls, no lies, only truth. If you hide, bond breaks. If you open, bond lives. Her words stayed with him, and slowly, Daniel began to open too. He told her of his fallen comrades, of the guilt he carried, of the sleepless nights when he wondered if he was a coward for surviving when others did not. She listened silently, but he felt her comfort in his mind, warm and steady, like a hand holding his heart. The bond was not only about sharing pain, it was also about sharing strength. During training drills, Daniel found his reflexes sharper, his senses clearer, as if her presence inside him guided his movements. Once, when a soldier tried to strike him in jest, Daniel blocked faster than he ever had before, almost as if the alien girl herself had moved through him. But with strength came danger. Rumors spread quickly. Soldiers whispered, "He is different, something is wrong with him." The commander eyed him with suspicion, warning, "Do not let that thing twist your mind, Daniel." But deep inside, Daniel already knew the truth. His life was no longer his alone. One evening, alarms blared across the colony. Radar detected ships entering the system, unknown signatures. Fear spread. The commander shouted orders, but Daniel felt something else, a cold dread, rising not from his own heart, but from hers. She whispered, her voice trembling inside him. "They come. They hunt me." Daniel froze. The bond surged stronger. He felt her terror as if it were his own, and he realized the truth. Her enemies had found her, and now they were coming for both of them. The colony shook with alarms. Red lights flashed across every corridor. Soldiers rushed to stations, weapons ready. Radar screens glowed with hostile signatures. Unknown ships cutting through space like dark shadows. The commander's voice thundered over the speakers. "Prepare for contact, enemy vessels inbound." Daniel stood frozen in the command room, his chest heavy. The alien girl's voice whispered in his mind, trembling. "They come. They hunt me." Her fear echoed inside him, and for the first time he understood the danger fully. This was not just about her survival. This was about the survival of everyone in the colony. Outside, the sky burned with streaks of fire as the enemy ships entered the atmosphere. Sleek black, crafts with glowing red engines, their weapons armed, their purpose clear. The colony defenses activated. Cannons rose from the ground. Missile batteries locked on targets. Soldiers shouted orders. Yet even with all this power, a silence of dread lingered. The commander slammed his fist on the table. "They want the alien girl. We give them the alien girl, better her than all of us." His words cut through the room like a blade. Some soldiers nodded in fear, others hesitated, but Daniel's fists tightened. His voice broke through. "No, she is not their prisoner anymore." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Do not forget your place, soldier. She is not human. She is their problem, not ours." But Daniel felt the bond pulse inside him, her heartbeat racing against his, her fear flowing into his own chest. He could not stay silent. "She is one of us now," he said, his voice firm. "If we hand her over, we hand over our humanity too." The room fell quiet. The commander glared, but before he could reply, the first strike came. The enemy ships fired beams of energy. Explosions shook the colony walls. Dust and fire spread across the outer gates. Soldiers screamed. The battle had begun. Daniel rushed to the medical wing. The alien girl sat weak but awake in her glass chamber, her silver eyes glowing faintly, chains still around her wrists. When she saw him, her lips trembled. "They will kill you, if you protect me." Daniel shook his head, unlocking the chamber, alarms blaring above. "Then we stand together," he said, lifting her carefully to her feet, her body frail but her spirit burning in her eyes. As they stepped into the hall, soldiers stared in shock. Some raised their weapons, shouting, "What are you doing, Daniel?" Others froze, uncertain. Daniel shouted back, "She is not the enemy, they are. If you want to live, fight them, not her." His words carried weight, though Moss. I still doubted. Outside, fire lit the night sky. Enemy soldiers poured from black ships, tall and armored, their weapons crackling with energy. The colony defenders fired back. Bullets and lasers filled the air. The ground shook with every explosion. Chaos reigned. Daniel moved with the alien girl beside him, and for the first time he felt the bond awaken in battle. When he raised his rifle, he felt her steady his aim. When he dodged incoming fire, he felt her guide his steps. They moved as one, not two, every action sharper, every reaction faster. A group of enemy soldiers charged, their weapons glowing. Daniel fired quickly, hitting targets he would never have hit alone. The alien girl raised her chained hands, and a pulse of silver light burst outward, pushing enemies back. Daniel gasped. She looked at him with fear. "I did not mean," she whispered, but he shook his head. "Do it again." Together they fought through the burning streets. Human soldiers stared in awe, some lowering their weapons, realizing she was not a monster but a shield. The commander, watching from the walls, clenched his teeth, anger burning. But even he could not deny what he saw. The bond was real and it made them stronger. Yet the enemy was relentless. More ships landed, more soldiers poured out. Their leader, a tall figure in black armor, stepped forward, his voice booming across the battlefield. "Return the bonded one, or all of you will burn." His words carried not just sound, but power, shaking the very ground. The alien girl trembled, her voice in Daniel's mind. "He is the hunter. He destroyed my people. He will not stop." Her fear spread into Daniel's chest, but he tightened his grip on his rifle, his voice steady. "Then we do not stop either." Explosions tore through the colony walls. Enemies pressed harder, defenders falling back. Daniel and the alien girl stood side by side, their bond pulled. Sing stronger with every heartbeat, her strength feeding him, his courage feeding her. Together, they held the line. But deep inside, Daniel knew the truth. This was only the beginning. The enemy now understood the bond's power, and they would stop at nothing to tear it apart. As the night raged with fire and screams, Daniel realized something terrifying. This was no longer just about saving her. This was about saving humanity itself. Because if the enemy won, the bond would be broken forever, and with it, hope. The colony burned under a sky filled with fire. Enemy ships circled like vultures. Soldiers fought and fell across the walls, the air thick with smoke and screams. Daniel stood with the alien girl at the center of the chaos, their bond pulsing stronger with each heartbeat. Yet for every wave they pushed back, more enemies arrived. The commander shouted orders, his face hard. "Fall back, hold the inner line." But even he knew the defenses would not last. The enemy leader's voice echoed across the battlefield again, deep and cruel. "Return the bonded one, and I will let some of you live." His promise was a lie, but fear spread quickly. Some soldiers turned to Daniel, their eyes desperate. "Give her up," one shouted. "We cannot win this war for a stranger," another cried. "She is not worth all our lives." The voices grew louder, their anger mixing with fear. The alien girl trembled, her silver eyes filled with sorrow. She whispered into Daniel's mind, "They are right. If I go, maybe they live." Daniel felt her pain, heavy and sharp. She truly meant it. She was ready to surrender herself. "No," Daniel said firmly, gripping his rifle. "If you go, they will still kill us all. You said it yourself. He destroyed your people. He will do the same here." His voice cut through her despair, but she shook her head weakly. "Then what choice do we have?" For a moment, silence filled the bond, both of them searching for an answer in the storm of chaos. Then Daniel felt a flicker of something, an idea forming not from him alone, but from them both. The bond whispered it into their minds at the same time. The alien girl's eyes widened, her voice soft. "We can use it, our bond, not to hide, not to run, but to strike." Daniel's chest tightened. The thought was dangerous, reckless, but it made sense. Their bond gave them power beyond either of them alone. Together they had fought harder, moved faster, survived longer. If they pushed it further, if they used all of it, maybe they could reach the enemy leader himself. Maybe they could break the chain of fear. "But it could kill us," Daniel whispered, his hands shaking. The bond pulsed heavy. She answered with calm eyes. "If we do nothing, all die. If we act, maybe some live." Daniel looked at her, truly looked. He saw her memories again, her people broken, her chains cutting into pale skin, her loneliness across the stars, and he felt his own pain rise to meet hers, the graves of comrades, the guilt of survival, the endless silence in his heart, and for the first time, he did not want to carry it alone. "Then we do it together," he said, his voice steady now. The alien girl placed her chained hands on his chest, their bond burning like fire, her silver eyes glowing brighter. "We join fully, no walls, no secrets, no fear," she whispered, "only truth." Energy surged through them both. Daniel gasped, his veins burning with light. Her body shone like silver fire. The ground trembled beneath them. Soldiers nearby stepped back in shock. "What is happening?" they cried, but Daniel barely heard them. He felt her life pouring into him, and his into hers. One heartbeat, one breath, one soul. They moved through the battlefield like a single force. Enemy soldiers fell before them. Silver light bursting from their steps, Daniel's rifle fired with impossible precision. Her power shielded them from every strike. They were no longer two. They were one, but the enemy leader stood waiting, tall and dark, his armor glowing red, his eyes burning with fury. He raised his blade, pointing at them. "So, the bond lives again," he roared. "Then I will break it with my own hands." Daniel felt the alien girl's fear, but also her strength. Together they charged, their movements swift, their bond guiding every strike. The leader's blade clashed with Daniel's rifle, sparks and fire exploding around them. The alien girl unleashed waves of silver energy, but the leader absorbed them, his armor glowing brighter. "He feeds on the bond," she gasped into Daniel's mind, her voice strained. "If we hold back, he wins. If we give all, we end him." Daniel's chest burned. He knew what she meant. The plan was not survival, it was sacrifice. To pour everything they were into one final strike, even if it destroyed them too. The battle slowed around them, human soldiers falling back, enemy forces circling, everyone watching as Daniel and the alien girl faced the towering leader, their bond blazing like fire. Daniel looked at her, sweat and light dripping from his skin. "If we do this, there's no coming back," he whispered. Her eyes met his, calm and steady. "Better to die together than live in chains apart." For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. Daniel nodded, his grip firm. Their bond pulsed one last time, stronger than ever, silver light and human fire merging into one storm. The ground cracked beneath their feet, the air split with power, and then they charged, straight into the heart of the enemy, ready to give everything. The battlefield trembled under the weight of the storm. Daniel and the alien girl moved as one, their bond blazing like silver fire, every heartbeat shared, every breath united. The enemy leader towered before them, his black armor glowing red, his blade humming with deadly energy. His voice thundered across the field. "You cannot win. Your bond will be your doom." Daniel felt the heat of the words, but he also felt her voice in his mind, steady and calm. "Together, we rise." Their souls locked tighter. The power between them pulsed brighter. Even the ground seemed to shiver under their steps. The enemy leader swung his blade, the force of the strike splitting stone. Daniel blocked with his rifle. Sparks exploded. The alien girl pushed her hands forward, silver waves clashing against red energy. The blast shook the battlefield. Soldiers on both sides staggered, staring in shock. Every strike drained them. Daniel felt his body breaking, his muscles burning. But each time he faltered, her strength filled him, and when she wavered, his resolve pulled her back. They carried each other through every breath. The commander and the human soldiers watched from the walls, their eyes wide, their fear slowly turning into awe. One whispered, "They fight as one." Another murmured, "Maybe this bond is our only hope." The enemy leader laughed, a sound like thunder and fire. "You share pain, then share death." He raised his blade high, gathering power. The sky itself seemed to darken. Daniel's chest tightened. The alien girl's voice trembled in his mind. "This is the end, unless we give all." Daniel understood. Their plan from before, sacrifice. The bond was not just a shield, it was a weapon. But only if they poured every last piece of themselves into it. His heart pounded, fear rising. Yet when he looked at her, her silver eyes calm and shining, he felt peace. "We finish this," he whispered, his voice steady. She nodded. Together. They pressed their hands together. Light flared, brighter than the sun, their bond fully awakened. No walls, no secrets, only truth. Daniel felt her entire soul, her love for her lost people, her endless loneliness, her quiet hope. She felt his grief, his guilt, his stubborn courage, nothing hidden, nothing broken, only one heart beating in two bodies. The enemy leader charged, his blade crashing down with the force of a storm. Daniel and the alien girl moved as one, their voices united in a silent cry, the bond unleashed. A storm of silver and fire burst outward, tearing across the battlefield. Enemy soldiers were thrown back, ships cracked and burned, the leader's armor split, his roar drowned by the explosion of light. The world itself seemed to shake. Daniel screamed as the energy tore through him, his body breaking. The alien girl cried as she poured her life into his, their bond pulling tighter, brighter, until there was nothing else, only light, and then silence. When the dust cleared, the battlefield lay still. Enemy soldiers scattered, their ships burning in the sky. The leader lay broken, his blade shattered, his body fading into smoke. The Bond's power had destroyed him. Human soldiers stood in stunned silence, their weapons lowered, their eyes wide. They had seen it with their own eyes. Two souls standing against an army. Daniel collapsed to his knees, his body shaking, his vision fading. The alien girl knelt beside him, her silver light flickering weakly. She touched his chest, whispering, "No, do not leave me." Daniel smiled faintly, his breath shallow. "It's all right," he whispered, but his body was failing. The Bond had taken too much. The alien girl closed her eyes, tears glowing like silver, and then she did something he did not expect. She gave, not took. She poured the last of her life into him, their bond burning one final time, her strength flowing into his heart. Daniel gasped, his vision clearing, his breath steadying. But when he looked at her, she was fading, her glow dimming, her body weak. She smiled softly, her voice trembling. "Now you live, for both of us." "No," Daniel whispered, his hands shaking as he held her. "Not like this." But she only smiled, her silver eyes closing slowly. "Sometimes, to survive, you must let someone in." Her body grew still, her light fading into him, the bond no longer two, but one. She lived inside him now, not in flew, but in soul. The battlefield was silent. The enemy gone, the colony saved. The soldiers stepped forward, their eyes filled with something new. "Not fear, but respect," one whispered. "She saved us," another added. They both did. The commander lowered his weapon, his voice heavy. Perhaps she was not a monster after all. Daniel stood slowly, his body steady though his heart heavy. He felt her inside him, quiet but alive, her soul bound to his forever. He looked to the sky, the stars bright above, and whispered, "You are not gone, you are here, always." The colony rebuilt in the days that followed. Scars remained, but hope grew stronger, for they had seen what bond could mean. Not chains, not weakness, but strength. And though Daniel walked alone, he was never truly alone. Every heartbeat carried hers. Every breath whispered her voice. Every step echoed her courage. The story of the human and the alien girl spread across the colony. A story of sacrifice, a story of truth, a story of bond. And in the quiet of the night, when Daniel closed his eyes, he still heard her voice, soft and gentle. "Thank you for letting me in."